I think that you could build up just a tremendous amount of grassroots support that can be generated over the next 10 months that can ultimately see this through. I think if you get to the general, you will have a real shot at pulling this off.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. We already have that infrastructure. So I mentioned our volunteer coordinator has been onboarding people, and we have the state broken up into 8 regions with roughly the same number of voters in each of them. We've got ground teams already on the ground in all of those places that are entirely volunteer now. They're doing it for the love because they're the local organizers and activists. They're the people that are doing rapid response. They're the people that are doing mutual aid in their community. And they see in our campaign a political arm of the work that they're already doing on the ground. So literally, we're going up to Humboldt. Like nobody, that goes all the way, up north. People don't do the work. We're not leaving any voter unturned because so that coastal elite, ideal is something that the Democrats, are just hopelessly committed to, right? But I don't think that you just leave the redder counties of California alone, because we recruited so many voters from, traditional Republican voters. I'm not just coming for the Bernie Trump voters. I'm coming for Trump voters, because I'm going to be honest about the Democrats selling you down the river, which is they did. And we had in the last 2 polls before, in 2 of the last polls before the presidential election, we were getting more Republican voters leaving Team Red than we were getting Democrat voters leaving Team Blue.
Well, that's because the shift ever since the early 90s with Clinton and the third way, the shift really has happened. The working class voter on average is in the Republican Party. They're not in the Democratic Party. And I mean, listen, I can't even begin to imagine the swath of voters that are just hanging around out there in San Bernardino and Riverside in particular, that are just waiting for somebody to come and really say what needs to be said, regardless of whether it's a left or right or even central ideology, as long as it's one that is not rooted in corporate special interest money, which is essentially what everybody else is doing. And look, I want to bring him up. He is not a serious candidate in the sense that he's going to win, but we have to address Steve Hilton, because at the end of the day, I think the same situation that occurred with Garvey during the general last year is the same thing that's going to happen next year. I think that the Democratic establishment,
that's their strategy.
They are going to pump so much money up his ass and make him look like a relevant candidate that he's going to have a chance to win. And there has to be an effectual call out to this, because Adam Schiff funded his own opponent to face in the general election. Katie Porter and the Dem establishment, they'll do the same thing to make sure that they're facing Hilton and not facing you. Is that something you are prepared to deal with as we go forward?
Listen, we are. I'll be, blunt about the fact that we've been very successful with fundraising now, not just in the Muslim community, but even we just had a young leftist, do a max donation for the primary. 36K is the max donation. Yeah. I mean, and we've got, literally hundreds of people, maybe up to thousands now pouring in, monthly dose. So we know that we have to build the capacity to fight them in the air. But the thing is that they cannot beat us on the ground if we continue to follow this game plan. So I'll just give you an example. First organizing meeting with the folks in San Diego, right? A bunch of DSA and PSL folks that we're seeing in our campaign the chance to really get, some progressive, let's just face it, socialist policies in the door. That was a meeting of a dozen people, just a few organizers, put on the first event, 40 people at the back of a nice barbecue restaurant. 20 of the people that were there signed up to be volunteers for the campaign, started training other volunteers for the campaign. I go back down to San Diego and I walk into the event at the Hillcrest Library, and it's standing room only, 150 people packed outside of the door, because people are hearing the message and they're telling their friends. They're like, this guy is not run by those corporations. This guy is not run by AIPAC. And I'm just telling you, I understand that the way that I communicate can be a lot for people, but I've been doing this my whole life and it's worked, right? I'm just going to tell the truth. I'm going to be who I am, and the chips are going to fall where they may. But I'm telling you, there is a lane in California for a Black Bernie message without the liberal Zionism. And that's all it actually takes, is just some basic working class politics, because everybody knows that the current status quo is just not serving working people. And because I bang so hard on the Dems, it works in this weird way, because one, the independents and Republicans love hearing me bang on the Dems, right? Yeah. But also, the liberals live in California, where the Dems have had 60 years of essentially uncontested power. And what we know what monopolies do. Monopolies, when you face no competition, you become really bad at everything. It's like you pointed out, Katie Porter's never had any real competition. The Democrats have not had any serious competition. Well, we are coming with serious competition. We're going to give them a run for their money, because like Fred Hampton said, the power is in the people. And I love the people, and you can't fake that. When you get me in a room of people, I'm there to serve the people, because I don't have no aspirations to become a career politician. All I want to do is to make people's lives better, because I've lived under some of the worst circumstances that this country has to offer, and I've had to fight for every last little thing. And I don't think that anyone should have to climb out of what I had to climb out in order to get to this position. Everybody should have a fair shake when it comes right down to it.
Yeah, I'm still stuck on that people have a problem going to Humboldt County, because I got to tell you, as a very prolific cannabis user my entire life, that would be one of the first places I would want to volunteer for you, would be in Humboldt County.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Going to be calling you out there at some point.
You do know that that's like where some of the greatest cannabis has always been from.
I mean, listen, so I converted to Islam at age 15.
So you don't really know.
Well, no, hold on. I was going to say, I didn't quit smoking weed until I was 20. I'll just be,
oh my
be honest
God.
about that.
Oh God.
I fought, the street in me for quite some time. And
You're ruined for me. You're ruined.
Was up and down. Listen, I live life like everybody else. So I can tell you, I was clean for a good long time, and at age maybe 18 or 19, I was going through some things and made some bad decisions. But I don't smoke. So you'll have to tell me all about it.
I'm just telling you, back when I was at the University of Colorado in Boulder, and this was back 88 to 92-ish. And one of the places, and this was of course way before legalization, but one of the places we got the best product was from Humboldt County. I'm just saying. There's some
the people are ready. The people are ready for real change. The people, you guys see the show, the people are ready for revolutionary change. They're ready for the thing to be flipped open. And the populist messaging that you take to the masses is the door that actually opens, for real fundamental structural change. If we break the duopoly inside the state of California, it never gets up, and that is the beginning of genuine revolutionary change in the United States of America. It's not going to come just through electoral politics.
Oh no.
That's the reason why, if you go to my website, it says mutual aid, direct action, and electoral politics, because the idea is that a political party is supposed to be used to help channel the people's energy from mobilizing around issues to organizing against systems. And that's what I'm turning this campaign into. It's a tool for the people's liberation aspirations to be achieved, but it is not one that is operating in isolation. We're providing support and amplification for all of the revolutionaries that are doing the work on the ground. But between being able to appeal to voters who are not ideological, while also standing 10 toes down to the liberation soldiers that are doing the work on the ground, we are going to build a political organization that has not yet existed.
Last thing before you go, we would be amiss to not talk about your fellow Muslim brother who has created a political earthquake, to say the least.
Yes.
Obviously, the only criticism I'm sure you have of Zohran is that he is running in the Democratic Party.
No, I have another one. I criticize some of his hiring choices.
Oh, that's
hire Cuomo's comms director And I find that very fucked up. But
well,
anyway.
I got good comms directors, including some Zios I hired recently.
Exactly.
Listen, he is very likely going to win. I think he's run a phenomenal campaign. And obviously the most significant, I mean, I've been saying it, we've both been saying it. It doesn't even matter if he gets into the governor's mansion. The impact that he had. Mayor's mansion. I apologize. Well, 6-1.
Gracie Mansion.
Gracie Mansion. But to get to City Hall and to have the impact that he has had, to me, is kind of, it pales in comparison to the primary campaign that he ran and how he beat back the Israel lobby with everything that they had to try to take him down. The fact that they said his name wrong, the fact that they addressed him as a socialist and a Muslim and an Indian and all these things, and it didn't work. And not only did it not work, but he kind of won handedly, and he's probably going to win the general handedly. What have you learned from Zohran's experience over the past several months that you are ultimately channeling for your own campaign in California?
Yeah, we brought in, an entire new comms team and social media team after we watched what Zohran did, to really harvest the lessons from that, and that is responsible for the beginning of a new rollout for a lot of the communication strategy. Because what Zohran did is the demographic that was most politically active in that mayoral primary was the 18 to 24 age group.
Yeah.
And if we can get that group engaged, see, the primary on June 2nd is buried, right? It gets low turnout historically because people are not prepared to vote at that time of year. So if you can get motivated groups and specific segments of the population, and all you have to do to get to second is to get to second in order to stage a one-on-one against the Dems. Yeah, they might try to pop up Hilton, but he's a lousy candidate and he can't compete with the people. And it's probably only going to take about 15 to 20% of the vote to finish second. In 2022, it was 17.7% of the vote got you second place, right? So just game this out. 5.5 million people voted in that primary in 2022. It might be 6 million this time around. If all you need to do is to get to about 20% of that vote, then all you need to do is mobilize certain core demographics, get the Muslim community out, get the abolish ICE community out, get the free Palestine community out, get the 18 to 30 demographic out, and you will clear that hurdle easily. Once that hurdle is cleared, where is their argument that you're going to turn the state red? They have nothing left to stand on because they can't fearmonger you about the state falling into Republican hands anymore. We get to second, we win the election. So the whole election for us is between now and June 2nd. And that's why we're working like our hair's on fire to build that infrastructure and to do that fundraising. Because if we're successful, frankly, it's a seismic shift. New York mayoral election is fine. California, people always say it's the fourth largest economy. If each of the states were independent republics, it'd be the third largest economy in the world because the United States wouldn't exist in that scenario, and it would be behind only China and Germany. So it goes China, Germany, California. That's the list, right? That's the top three. If you are able to bring an actual socialist agenda, anti-capitalist agenda, and a social revolution, political revolution to the state of California, you've dealt American imperialism its death blow.